Welcome back to the Gothic Chef. Today I'm going to make pepperoni pizza soup. Soup that tastes like pepperoni pizza, you say? Bullshit, you say. No, really, it does, as you will taste if you make it. So I will go through the ingredients and I will show you some of my legendary knife skills. Laugh, laugh, cough, cough. And off we go. So I have 3 stalks of regular celery stalks. And I have a nice big chunk of celery heart with the leaves attached. I love celery hearts with the leaves. I have 2 cups of baby carrots. They're called baby carrots, but they're not really baby carrots. There's no such thing as a baby carrot. They are ground down to that size, but there's a reason I'm using these, and I will tell you why. Garlic, of course. A sweet Vidalia onion. I'm going to use half of that. 29-ounce can of garbanzo beans, or as some people call them, chickpeas, or as my family calls them, chichi beans. A 29-ounce can of tomatoes, diced tomatoes. Oregano. And the star of the show, pepperoni, a nice fresh stick. Also, of course, as always, salt and pepper. So we're going to start off by cutting up the celery. I like nice sized pieces of celery in my soup. I want to be able to taste my vegetables. So I like to cut them nice. And I'm using a utility knife. Now, the posh chefs of the world will say, you're a chef and you're using a utility knife to cut vegetables, not a chef knife. Yes, because if you haven't noticed, I have very small fingers, and the utility knife is better for me. It's easier for me to handle. Yes, I know I'm supposed to be using a chef knife. I don't care. I'm using a utility knife. Deal with it. So I like to cut the celery stalk in half, and then cut it in half lengthwise. And then I'm going to make about 1/4-inch pieces. Try to make them as even as possible so they cook evenly. As long as they're close, you'll be fine. And for those of you who have trouble cutting up vegetables, if you notice, I'm using the knuckles out, fingertips in technique that chefs are taught. And basically what that does is you put the knife up against your knuckles. Of course, not like that, but you usually put the knife up against your knuckles, and your knuckles prevent the knife from cutting your fingertips off, which is always good. So then we'll cut up the onion. I'm only going to use half because I don't like a ton of onion in my soup. So this weighs about a pound, I would think. I think about a pound. So we're going to cut it in half, and I'll show you how I cut an onion. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's tricky, but it takes some practice. So you want to pull off the outer piece of the onion. Of course, take off the root and the top, but peel off the outer skin because that's kind of tough. The papery skin and the outer layer, take that off because that's always tough. You want to slice with the grain, make little slices, pretty much almost all the way down. And then once you slice across like that, slice horizontally. This is the tricky part. Some people have trouble with that. And then slice down, and as you see, you get your nice pieces of onion. They're fairly even. don't want massive pieces, but you don't want teeny pieces. So now we're going to cut up the, quote, baby carrots. I like to cut them in half and leave them in nice little chunks. Now the reason I use the, quote, baby carrots is because they're all fairly even. So when you cut them in half, you get fairly even pieces. And really, on my part, it's pure laziness. I mean, if you're really against using the baby carrots because you don't know where they've been, use regular carrots and struggle away. But I'm lazy and I like to use these. So now we'll cut up the pepperoni. The star of the show. It doesn't matter what kind of pepperoni you use, like what brand you use. I'm not promoting any particular brand, but I personally like margarita pepperoni. And the reason I like it is because it's not very fatty as some of the others. As you can see, it's quite lean. It's really, there's not a lot of fat marbling in it. So what I like to do is make about 1/4 inch slices. Again, I'm not measuring anything, I'm just slicing by eyeballing. And you want to try and make them as fairly even as humanly possible. And, you know, there is a little bit of a skin on the outside. If you're really freaky about that, if you want to take it off, just take it off. I don't bother. But I'm going to use about 1/2 stick of pepperoni. And once you get through slicing the pepperoni in these little 1/4 inch slices, we're going to take them and cut them in half. And then cut them in quarters. Because the quarters will be a nice size piece for your soup. You don't want massive chunks of pepperoni in your soup, and there's 2 reasons for that. You don't want the big massive pieces of pepperoni in the soup while you're eating your soup, and it will render the fat nicely. It'll get all the fat out of the pieces of pepperoni. And then if you do have fat on the top of the soup, you can just skim it out. And I'm going to tell you, if you use margarita pepperoni, you will not have a lot of fat, if any fat, on the top of your soup. But you use the one you're used to. So now on to the garlic. Okay, so now don't shut the video off. I am going to use a lot of garlic, and I'm going to cut the garlic in larger size pieces because you're not going to brown this garlic. You're going to put it in the soup just like it's a vegetable. Don't worry. I promise you it will be okay. Don't be frightened. I mean, if you don't like garlic, well, you're in trouble. So cut the garlic lengthwise and then cut it in these nice big chunks. You want them about like that. Yes, that big. I promise you, it will be okay. Don't be nervous. Don't start to sweat. It will be fine. But again, if you don't like garlic, well, not sure this soup is for you. So we're going to use almost the entire bulb of garlic. And the garlic that I'm using is called Music. It is an absolutely delicious garlic. It's got the right amount of garlicky taste. It's not bitter. It's got a little sweetness to it. Yet you could still taste the really strong garlic taste, but it is very hard to find. I usually grow it in my backyard, but in the fall we have a local farm that grows it and sells it at their garlic fest, and I usually get about 30 cloves, or not 30 cloves, 30 bulbs. I get about 30 bulbs of garlic, and I vacuum pack them and I put them in the back of the refrigerator in the vegetable bin, and they literally stay about 8-9 months until the next year, till I'm ready to get them again. Okay, so I like to use a big, deep soup pot. This is my Gotham steel soup pot. and I love it. It's really great for soup. And the reason you use a nice deep soup pot is because you usually have a lot of ingredients that pile pretty high to the top, and then as it cooks, it decreases and everything steams nicely with the lid on. So that's why people use the soup pot. So it's the easiest soup you will assemble. The hardest part about this soup is cutting everything up and opening the cans. So we're going to start off with the liquid. We're going to put the diced tomatoes in there. You're going to use 2 cans of water in the soup. And then once you get your 2 cans of water in, you can start adding your vegetables. Turn it on medium-high. And basically add the rest of the ingredients. Add the beans last. I'll tell you why in a minute. We'll start off with the garlic. We'll throw that in. Yes, I know. Aren't they lovely chunks? I promise it'll be okay. Add the carrots. Add your celery and onions, along with your yummy leaves. Add your pepperoni. Give it a little stir. Start incorporating everything. And of course, tap, tap, tap. Add some fresh pepper to your taste. I love pepper, so I put a lot in. Add some salt. I put quite a bit of salt in too. Not a lot because the pepperoni has salt in it, so. About a tablespoon of oregano. It's going to look like a lot of oregano, but trust me, you need that much. It's very good because it's a very important ingredient. Give it a little stir to get the salt, pepper, and the oregano mixed in. I know, it looks like a lot of oregano, but it's not. Trust me. Tap, tap, tap. And last, add your garbanzo beans. The reason you want to add them last is because you just want to gently stir them in. You don't want to mush them around because then they're going to get all mushy. Tap, tap, tap. Put the lid on. Bring it to a boil and then simmer it for about 90 minutes. So here we are in a half hour. As you can see, there's not a lot of fat rising to the top from that pepperoni. And doesn't it look delicious? It really is a yummy soup. So it's coming along nicely. Everything's starting to cook. The celery's becoming translucent. Anybody else do this? Use the can for a spoon holder? Family tradition. Okay, see you in a little bit. So we're going to check it. It's starting to come together very nicely. Everything's incorporating nicely. You see the oregano has macerated and it has disappeared pretty much. And you give it a little test with the fork. The carrots are really nice. Celery still needs to go a little bit, but we're almost there. And you see there's a little bit of fat, but not a lot. No reason to even skim it. Okay, let's check. I think we're good. Get the soup ladle and dish it out. It's smells absolutely phenomenal. It really does smell like pepperoni pizza. Make sure you put some Parmesan or mozzarella cheese on the top, and then give it a taste. All that cheesy, drippy cheesy. Just like pizza. Bon appetit. As always, thank you for watching. If you try this recipe and you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends. There will be a link in the description below to my website, which will include this recipe, other recipes, and some really fun stories actually. So please check it out, and come back and see me next time on The Gothic Chef.